back again. It's been a while. Welcome to Loaded Mag NEFC, the top table talk. We've got the boys in the house, and we've had our own sort of international break, haven't we, Daz? A little bit of time off.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I haven't been on for a while. It was a nice little break. It also coincides with Chris being off as well. Shout out to Chris out there in Salou, having a great time. We're chatting to him today while backing over in text tonight. But yeah, nice few days off. Not an awful lot to talk about. Well hang on, actually, that's not Forest. There was a bit to talk about. On
whoa! Did you just say Notts Forest?
Yeah, Notts Forest.
No. Oh,
you can have that.
No.
I've been doing it wrong all my life, have I?
You need the etiquette, mate. Nott stands for the county. It's not Nottinghamshire Forest, man. So either just call it Forest or Nottingham Forest. Anyway, sorry.
Sorry, Robin Hood. Right. Yeah, but no, there's plenty to talk about. And we'll have a show tomorrow on Newcastle on what's to talk about there. But all good. How about yourself, Pete? Before we go into the rest of the boys.
Yeah, busy at work, non-stop. Just right into the thick of things. It's like we've not had a summer holiday, and we're all back into the swing. So yeah, all good. Other than that, just desperate for. I'm going to say proper football, but I want to get your thoughts on this. Is the Premier League now is club football proper football, or am I being disrespectful to international football? I'll come to Rich and Adam on that first. How are you boys? You boys okay?
Doing good. How about you, Rich?
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. I don't know if you boys keep a close eye on Aston Villa Twitter, but it's certainly been going crazy about the ticket prices for Champions League and all that business. So yeah, it's certainly been interesting. I guess in international break, there's no football to kind of distract people. So there's always various controversies and talking points that get announced. So yeah, it'd be good to get some football back to kind of stop all this debate on social media. We could just get back to I guess overreacting if our team wins or loses again.
You know, I've actually been quite happy the last few days with England watching them. As in, we've all. Sorry if there's any Southgate apologists here, but we've suffered through Southgate for quite a while, and I thought it was pretty refreshing to see Carsley's team play football. And Grealish was in the team. He looked like a completely different player. It was decent football. Gordon looked good as well. I was watching England play football, and I didn't want to claw my eyes out. Which
I miss Southgate.
You know?
I miss him. I was born in Scotland, so I miss him. I miss him.
I was kind of frowning there when you were saying that. I was thinking, what? Really?
Yeah, legit. Yeah. We should have beaten Portugal and messed up, but yeah, I hate international football. Just leave it at the tournaments, man. Just leave it for the tournaments. Like, put them in by their seeding and then leave like 10 slots for the rest of the world to fight out. And stop these stupid friendly. And what's this one called? The
Whoa. This is not a friendly. This is a serious league system that you're talking about.
What's it called? Club?
I don't really know.
It's the Nations League, right?
That's the one. Yeah. Who cares? Who actually cares, man? All I care about is the players don't come back injured. That's my number one concern, man.
Yeah. Well, Gordon's starting tonight. So there you go, boys.
Is Gibbs White starting?
No, he's not. Ezri Konsa is starting. So yeah, we're hoping that there's no injuries.
Okay, from a Newcastle perspective.
Gibbs White's not starting, no.
He can't get injured on the bench at least.
The last game, the 2 home goals ruined it for me. I was enjoying it up until then.
Yeah. I think the problem is that this international break in particular, and then I guess the one in October, you kind of just feel like you're getting back into the mood for football. Yeah. You're getting back into the swing of it, and then kind of 3 games in, 4 games in, you feel like the players are kind of just getting back into the swing of football and getting that rhythm, and then it's stopped again, and then there'll be another game or 2 games to get back into that rhythm, and then it's another another break, and he doesn't get until sort of November time when you're like, right, the season is really in gear. So
Rich, there's another one in November, mate. There's another one in November.
Not again.
Sorry to burst your bubble, but yeah, there's another one. It's ridiculous.
You know what? International football wasn't going to be on the agenda, but like it has to be, just for the fact that it's an absolute joke. The amount of international breaks that there are. You got one in September, then another one in November, then another one in March. I just think it's overkill. It's overkill. It's money that the associations earn off the back of all these friendlies. That's all they're doing it for. It's an absolute joke. And look, correct me if I'm wrong. When the players are moaning, and not moaning, but stressing that they're playing too much football and it's causing the amount of injuries, why are they adding more friendlies for internationals on the back of that, including more travel? Like, am I wrong in that, or am I being too harsh?
Yeah, just do it in the summer, man. Start the season 2 weeks later and just knock out all these pointless friendlies and internationals in one go, and let's get on with it. Honestly, it's exactly what Rich said. You just, not just the players, but as fans, you start to get into a rhythm, don't you? And then you lose that rhythm, you got to restart again, and then you lose to Liverpool away this weekend, and you wish the international break could be coming back again. You know, it's just annoying. It's annoying.
Money. That's all. That's what makes it all tick.
Absolutely.
And yes, Claire, absolutely. Shout out to Anderson. Thank you guys again. He's our player of the month. What a signing. What a bargain for just under £15 million. Thank you for letting him go. I didn't realize the Geordies loved Forest that much. So thank you guys very much. And thank you for the 22 million for Vlachodimos. So we love you guys this year. We didn't last year or the year before, whenever you gave us Shelby.
Wolfie, still not confirmed that we paid that much for him. We're waiting till the accounts come out.
You keep holding out, Pete. You keep holding out, mate. Even if it's 35 million, mate, he's worth it.
What do you think, Daz? We've released Anderson this summer, so they should release Gibbs White next summer. Seems fair.
Yeah, I thought they should have done it this summer. How that would have suited us nicely as well. Yeah, they'll hardly release them in January, will they? When we go shopping, I'm expecting them to go shopping in January.
You can have a line. Boys, can I ask you though? I've heard about this Anthony link. What is there any truth in this?
No.
Oh, that is so funny.
No chance.
No, you just saying no because you don't want it to be true, or are you saying no because it's not true? I never know if I trust you lot or not. All right, which way is this one?
It's one of those times. If we're being linked with Anthony, I hope Eddie Howe and Paul Mitchell are falling out and can't agree on things. If that's who we end up with, because I definitely don't want him anywhere near Newcastle.
No for both, Wolfie. No for both. No, because we don't want him. Look, to be fair, he was linked with Fenerbahce yesterday. So I personally, I think game will be linked with every player under the sun, just because we will. I think on top of that, I think it's very much an agent-driven situation where he's just trying to get his player in the limelight of every club that could possibly take him. I think look, it's clear that Man United don't want him, and so he probably want a way out. So yeah, definitely not. But yeah, the Anthony Elanga one definitely want to come back to. But interestingly tonight, boys, the focus was not necessarily. We're going to touch on our clubs and we're going to look at our fixtures, sort of in the middle of the show, and kind of assess what's to come for each club. But actually, the first part of this kind of discussion was going to be about clubs that are not on the panel tonight, because I think there's a few interesting talking points out there at the moment. And I want to get your thoughts on this, and we'll start with this conversation around Chelsea. And it was interesting to come out that obviously there seems to be some form of civil war going on with Chelsea at the moment, with Todd Boehly and his relationship with Clearlake, and it's apparently coming to breaking point, to the point where they are looking to buy each other out. Now, the fact that they've been able to spend all this money on all of these players, and now they're getting to the point where they're fighting in-house. What do you guys make of what's going on at Chelsea at the moment? Just because, for me, it just seems absolute madness, what's happening in that club and how it's been allowed to happen. But could this potentially derail their season again for a third season in a row. Like, who wants to kind of share their opinion? Adam, you've not been on for a while. I'll come to you. You've always got an opinion.
I
Adam's a
love
fanboy.
Chelsea. Yeah, I love Chelsea. Yeah, I can't get enough of them.
Talk to us, man.
I hope it doesn't happen, because obviously the way they've been doing things up until this point has been an absolute shit show, and everyone else has profited from that, either on the pitch or off the pitch, us specifically included in that. And I fear that if they do like consolidate that power into, you know, one group, one individual, they'll actually organize themselves a little bit more. So they don't have all these disagreements, and they've got one clear path to what they want to do when it comes to the strategy of the club. They're talking about getting rid of Stamford Bridge and opening new ground, like all things that would take the club into the, let's face it, into the 21st century, because that stadium is not up to snuff really anymore, is it? So I don't want it to happen. I want to continue to see a bunch of people sat around a table at Chelsea with 400 different ideas going in all different directions and making a fool of themselves, because that's better for everyone else. That's what I want to continue. So I actually hate the idea that they're going to actually figure this out. And it will be worse for the rest of us if they do.
Yeah, I don't think it matters, boys. I don't think it matters. I think I heard that this all triggered over the sacking of Pochettino. One side wanted to, one side didn't want to. At the end of the day, whoever, I don't know which one wanted, but whoever was able to get rid of him, surely they'll end up with the power. I think I read Bowley's only got 38% stake, and what they call Clear Lake.
That's the weird thing, isn't it? Everyone talks about Bowley, but like Bedad Egbali, I think is his name, the Clear Lake guy. He's the one that's actually got most of the power.
Yeah, they've got the power. They've got the power. So they got the majority stake with them and their other investors. So Todd needs to like rein it in a little, or he could find himself forced out. So I don't really care, if I'm being honest with you. It's like, if Chelsea continue to be Chelsea, then that's, you know, good for the rest of us, really. But I actually think they got a good enough squad to be in the top 4 this season. So if they get their act right, I think under Maresca, they'll do okay as well. His football style and his philosophy is decent. But the only thing that will slow them down is this off the field politics. So if it continues, I'm all for it, mate. I really can give a damn.
And this is why I'm asking the question. I mean, I'm not asking it because I'm worried about it. I'm with you, Wolfie. I'm all for it. I want the Civil War to continue, because let's be honest. And at this moment, we'll add you in, Wolfie, like, because you're in the top half of the table. This is why you're here in this part of the discussion.
Nosebleed.
But
really, nosebleed.
I did say that.
Prepare trophy cabinets.
However, obviously, Villa Champions League this season. From your perspective, Rich, you've got aspirations of being there again. Brighton have had a fantastic start, Adam, and look, you know that for sure. You've seen it. They're not just getting the results, but they're putting the performances in as well. And of course, from our perspective, Daz, we've got those aspirations too. We want Chelsea down there, of course. So, like, my couple of questions is that, and I'll go back to the point, like, do you think this could potentially derail their season with all the talk in the background causing potential unrest? And who do we want to buy out who? You know, which one do we want to buy out the other to benefit us? Because, you know, we know Todd Bowley's a bit of a madman with regards to the spending, because he's been the front guy. So we got that opinion of him. But like you said, Adam, like, is it not Clear Lake, the guy that's kind of got the power in that situation? Do we want him to continue? Where are you guys at? Whoever wants to chip in, because
I've been there for a sec.
Go on,
Just for a sec. That, like, I'm with Adam, that I'd like that to continue the what they're doing, because they are making a mess of it. I said at the end of last season, I think it was with Dom who was on with us, and I would have stuck with Poch, and he was having none of it, and he definitely wanted to Poch out, because I think he was building towards something then, and he could have continued on. I think if Chelsea are dangerous if they stick with the manager and they build on what they're at, because it's only when they start chopping and changing again and again and again that it all falls apart for them, and they never make any real progress. So let the ownership continue the way it is, because they're nagging at each other. I would have a worry, like Wolfie was going to say, that if there's one clear owner, that then they might get their house in order, and they could potentially be dangerous to all of us then, and what they might bring.
The only thing I'd say to that, Daz, is historically though, Chelsea have done better when they've chopped and changed.
Yeah,
Like
I was literally just
under
about to say
what's
the
his
same,
face?
Wolfie. Yeah, under Abramovich.
Abramovich. Romano. Yeah, every time they weren't going well, who'd chop and change, would win the Champions League or the league next season. They'd finish 7th or 8th the year after that. He'd do it again. So it's not the model anyone really wants to see as a fan, but it's not something that's foreign to them or their fan base.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So like maybe consistency for them could be a bad thing. It'd just be so foreign to them that it'd throw them out. But I just don't have respect for the way they're doing it. You know, I look at how Villa are doing it. Villa are the example right now. I know everyone always goes on about Brighton, Adam, but I'm sick of hearing about the Brighton model and all. Because your Brighton model is con Chelsea every summer. That's all it is. There's no real model there. Whereas Villa have got the right manager in play, they've got the right players in play, a good identity and a good style built up from, where were you 2 seasons ago, Rich? 17th when we came up, you know, under Gerrard. Around that spot.
Yeah,
and then you've built up
November 17th when Emery came in.
And that's how I feel you should build a club up. And this is why all this finance crap in football just ruins it. And I respect what Villa are doing. And, you know, fair play to them. And I hope they can compete this season in the Champions League and still maintain a fight for the top 4. But it's going to be tough because you got the Cartel 6.
Yeah, I think you're right in what you're saying, Wolfie, about Chelsea. I mean, there's a couple of things you could argue that they have operated on a system of, even if a manager wins trophies, they just sack that manager because they weren't happy with the trophies that they won. So they've operated on that basis for years and years, and that's worked for them. And that's kind of, I guess, where their fans are still in that mindset. You know, we saw last season that how many times will they get Pochettino out after he lost a couple of games? And then it was only because he started winning a few games at the end of the season that were like, actually, maybe we'll give this guy a chance. Throughout the season, they were just get him out, get rid. So they've still got that mindset. And then you could also argue that the model that Bowl is utilising with regards to just buying whoever, but selling players from their academy for ridiculous sums of money for the profit and sustainability rules, you could argue that's kind of working. The problem is that still on the pitch, they're still extremely inconsistent, and they haven't addressed areas that, from their perspective, that they would need. Like, they don't have a striker.
Yeah,
they're still dodgy at the back, and they're still massively over reliant on Cole Palmer. He's like, basically, it's give the ball to Cole Palmer and see what happens. They've still got that system. So I feel sorry. I think Maresca, if he's given this any amount of time, might be able to do something with them, because he's basically been told, this is what you've got to do. This is the tools that you've got. Work with it. Whereas I guess Pochettino was arguing a little bit more about what he wanted. So, but equally, if he loses 3 or 4 games, the same argument will be get rid. So I still don't see them being consistent enough to warrant a challenge on the top 4. I really don't.
I get your point about how they've had this history of constant change and it's worked for them, but they have in the last 2 years completely changed their entire mantra around how they operate. Like, look at their squad now, right? Who's the oldest player in their squad?
Not Thiago Silva anymore. He's good.
Yeah, that was the easy answer.
He's gone. Lukaku's gone. Sterling's gone.
Yeah.
Kepa's gone. So what? A bunch of 25 and 24-year-olds. João Felix is 24. Sancho's 24. Neto's 24. And they've signed a bunch of young players as well, right? As we know, like, they've adapted now to go to this. How do we source these players that are younger, and how do we grow with them? And as we all know, that we're going to sign them on these long-term contracts. So we're not going to be the club that ends up spending all of this money on a 31-year-old that we then can't sell for anything after the fact. the problem with that is that it's not going to give them the immediate results on the pitch, and we've seen that. So it's all well and good that in the past they've done all this change to get short-term success, but they can't get short-term success now if they're buying future prospects. So I don't see the same thing playing out. They have to have consistency now because that's what their squad is now created around. How do we build on something and grow it for the future? So I don't think the old model is going to work for them.
That's wild. I'm just looking at a squad here, and it's
Chilwell, isn't it?
Bettinelli is 32, the fourth, fifth choice goalkeeper. I don't know. He's 32, but yeah, after that it's Chilwell, 27. I thought Chilwell was older than that.
I thought Felix was older than 24. It feels like he's been around forever.
Yeah,
Oh, he has.
But I get what you're saying,
fight.
Adam. The only thing I come back with that on is then it's not a consistent model they've got, because if they're prepping all the stuff for the long-term future in terms of players, long contracts and what have you, then they had to do that with the manager. And this is now their, third manager or whatever it is, fourth manager under Bowley. So they have to connect the two dots together. Like the short-termism for them before was change the manager, but their squad was fairly consistent, wasn't it? It was, you had your Lampards, your Terrys, etc. And now it just feels like they keep changing their mind every 6 months. All right, let's start again. And I don't see the benefit in these long-term contracts. If someone gave me a 9-year contract, paying me 200, 300 grand a week, believe you me, I'd be not performing to what I need to, knowing my future is secure. How long is a professional career these years? 15 years. You've literally put the majority of their career to absolute safety. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
But that's your highlight, the exact point as to why they're infighting at the moment and why there's a power struggle, because they can't align on what the whole process is going to be. And I know you sort of you joked about the Brighton model, but I mean, yeah, that's what they tried to do, right? That Graham Potter was the guy. He was meant to be the guy that would be there for years and years and years. The problem with adapting a model that works for lower table teams, and I'm talking about my club like that, right? Realistically, is it doesn't work in the same way, because with Chelsea, you've got immediate expectations. You have to win. You've got to win now, right? What they've done is create a squad and a structure that wins in the future, and they hope they're going to win now. But what happened was they fucking imploded, and that's when they have to change, right? So it's like they want to have their cake and eat it, and they need to be able to understand that the club does need to grow, and there's going to be a few years of not being particularly good until it really comes to fruition, if it even does. So it's a long may the mess continue, in my opinion.
Definitely. And look, I said to Don a while back, I said with the window that they had in the summer, they have to get Champions League. I even said, and look, you guys might disagree with me. I even said I ramped up the pressure on them, and I think it should be with Chelsea, with the money that they've spent, regardless of what they've recouped in selling, the money that they've spent and the players that they've brought in. You add Sancho to that, right? For me, they should be targeting third. And if they don't get third, that should be considered a disappointment. If they don't get Champions League, it's an absolute failure. Because, I'm sorry, Chelsea as fans, want to be considered still as that big top team. And they've proven it in the past because they've won the Champions League, they've won multiple Premier Leagues. So they have a reason to feel that strongly about it. But they have backed it up with spending millions upon millions upon millions into now the billions. So therefore, they have to succeed. So the pressure is massively on them to succeed. And I'm with you guys. I'm absolutely with you.
The only thing with that, Pete, is spending money doesn't necessitate success. Look at Manchester United, how much they've spent. And then I'll use Villa again. I know Villa have spent money, but not to the extent that the others have. Look at you guys. Yeah, when you had your push, you brought in Bruno, a couple of others. You didn't excessively spend, and you still could get Champions League. So I don't think the money is the be all and end all with it. Huh?
We didn't spend it all this window.
Yeah, exactly.
We're coming from different starting points, though, Wolfie. Like we were the bottom of the league when we got taken over.
Yeah, exactly.
So we exactly. With Chelsea, though, this is why I'm ramping the pressure upon Chelsea. For me, they were a team that were regularly getting Champions League. They were winning the Champions League. They were winning the Premier League. They're coming from a different position. They've gone from that to finishing in the bottom half to finishing 6th. Okay, last season they had a great end to the season. Fair play, but they should be doing better. They should be, in the money that they're spending, they should be doing a whole lot better than what they are currently.
Yeah,
So,
I agree with what you're saying. I just don't always think just because a player cost 80, 90 million, they're going to be a success just because of the price tag. Do you know what I mean? That's my point on that one.
Yeah, it's. I look at Chelsea, right, and they've got all the gear and no idea. You know, it's like they've got all these players. Sancho. I mean, I don't get him. I don't get him. He's a player who does some really good skills. You've probably seen a few highlight reels, but if you talk about character, if you talk about mindset, if you're talking about someone who's gonna, when the chips are down, when you're 2-0 down, to really drive a team to get back into the game. Not just Jadon Sancho, but have Chelsea got any of those players in that team that are gonna, that you could back in a fight to go to war with you? Not even Enzo. I mean, he's flat as to deceive. Caicedo, flat as to deceive. They've got too many players like that who like to show, like pose on Instagram and like to show what they can do and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to the crunch, got no character, and that's what wins your leagues. That's what wins your games. Not how good you are on doing a few step overs. Sorry to sound like a dinosaur, but it's not what wins your leagues. It isn't.
It just feels a bit like he's been on FIFA Ultimate Teams, and he just keeps buying players. Then when it comes to the actual weekend league tournament, he's looking at it thinking, where do they all go? I mean, they forgot to register Parma, didn't they, for Europe? I mean, that kind of sums it all up.
I don't think they forgot. I think there was a tactical.
I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. Looking through. Oh, I've done it before on Football Manager. You're like, oh crap, I didn't register him. You know what I mean? When he bought two, it's just feeling like that with Chelsea. It really is.
You signed too many players. You got two.
Yeah, shall I Shelby or Chris Wood? Shall I register?
Good times. But look, from the perspective of Champions League, let's talk about Aston Villa. Okay, you got your Champions League draw, Rich. Obviously, a brand new format, so different to previous seasons. What are your thoughts? Your Champions League draw, are you happy with the clubs that you've got?
I'm actually really happy. I don't think it could have gone any better in terms of a few marquee games, particularly home games, and then games that are very much winnable. From our perspective, obviously it's a new frontier. We don't know what's going to happen. These teams many of them are established Champions League teams, but if you look at the home ties, you've got Bayern Munich, obviously a team that goes back in history of Aston Villa, the team that we beat to win the European Cup in '82. You've got Celtic, obviously a huge game in Great Britain. You've got Juventus, massive game again. Douglas Luiz coming back to Villa Park, and you've got Bologna at home. Then the away games, you've got Leipzig, obviously very, very, very tough game. But Young Boys, Bruges, and Monaco, you're thinking, do you know what? It could have been a hell of a lot worse away from home. And I saw somewhere that said, the Opta stats or something said Villa have got something like a 70% chance of going through in the into the playoff round. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. I think it's a really good draw. There's the Bayern Munich games, Juventus game, Celtic game at home really do stand out. And like I say, the away games, I think Unai Emery will be going into them thinking, do you know what? We can actually get something out of all those games.
Guys, what do you make of that draw for Villa? Are you thinking they've got the good end of the stick compared to us from last season?
Oh, most definitely. But to tell you the truth, I haven't even looked at the draw. That's how far away from European football. Once we didn't qualify, I don't care. I'm just concentrating next game. I wish you all the best, Rich. I hope you go along and win it, and your league form crumbles.
We'll have as many stars as Wolfie on his badge then if we go on and win it.
Rich, it's nice to be joined by someone who does have stars on this panel, you know.
No,
exactly.
I feel in good company right now.
And of course, if you were to win it, that'd open up 5th spot in the league for Someone else to jump in
Yes,
there.
well,
Does
yeah,
that come
yeah.
back in again, by the way? You know, it was meant to be 5 last year with the coefficient. I'm not talking if they win it. Is that still a thing now this season?
Yeah. Coefficient
Okay.
every year. So it'll be. This is why when I kind of was asked the question at the beginning of the season, like where would I see Newcastle finishing? Like I would say that our target should be fifth for that reason. And there's no. I mean, there's teams like Spurs, for example, like Brighton, with the start that you guys have had, fifth could be a realistic one because you've got those teams you expect to be in the top 3 or 4. That's a realistic position. And with the coefficient, I expect the teams in Europe, and I add you to that. I'm with Daz. I add you to that, Rich. I think you're going to have a good season in the Champions League. I think you'll qualify for the knockout stages, and we need them to. We need our English teams to actually do well in Europe because we need that fifth spot. That fifth spot, with how competitive our league is now, going down to 8th and 9th in the league, that are fantastic football clubs. We need it more than ever.
Come on,
So,
all you loaded watchers, get involved, get back the Villa boys. Come on.
yeah.
We all follow the Villa.
I can guarantee you, Rich, last season when you were in the Europa Conference, they were not supporting Aston Villa, but
you were leading that charge, Pete, I think.
No. Would I, Daz? No way. I can remember the night that you guys got knocked out in our chat, which was going absolutely wild with that one. But would I ever? Of course. But look, with that as well, I just want to touch on, whilst we're on the conversation of Villa, is your next few games, because obviously what you've got to do now is mix that with Premier League football. So you come back and you've got the easiest fixture in the Premier League. 5:30 kickoff, no pressure, Rich. Look, we've got our very own Scouse in the chat from Loaded, and his family are Evertonians. So he would agree with us to say you must, Rich, on Saturday. But then the Champions League kicks in. In between that, you got the likes of Wolves. You got a couple of home games. Obviously, the Carabao Cup, Ipswich. That's not a bad set of fixtures as we go into.
Mate, who have they paid off?
That's not bad at all. You've got to be happy with that set of fixtures, Rich.
Absolutely, and I think you talked about last season, and yes, it was the Europa Conference League, and I noticed a question in we might cover it a little bit with regards to how Aston Villa will cope with the Champions League and the Premier League compared to Newcastle. And I think we've maybe got the squad. I think in terms of the numbers in the squad, obviously injuries permitting, but we've done a lot of work with squad players who can come in and compete. We've also got Tyrone Mings and Boubacar Kamara to come back in from season-long injuries last season as well. But we've also had to cope with the Thursday-Sunday process of last season right throughout up until, right to the semi-finals of the Conference League, as well as, competing to try and finish fourth in the table. So I think that stands us in good stead. And the Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturdays, I don't know why psychologically it seems easier to cope with than the Thursday, Sunday. So I think they'll cope with it a little bit better. But yeah, absolutely. In terms of these fixtures, it is a balancing act. And what does Unai Emery do? Because I don't think you can go into games now just, flogging Ollie Watkins every game, or John McGinn every game, or, Ezri Konsa every single game, because they will, the level that you have to go up to in the Champions League games and then drive yourself for the Premier League the next game is just that little bit more. So the likes of Ross Barkley, the likes of John Duran, who started the season off fantastically well, he thinks he should be starting, which is what we want. He absolutely does think he should be starting. And then you bring in through maybe a couple of the younger players. Ian Matson might start to start more games instead of Luca Dean, and one or two others coming through as well. So that's where it will really come through with the squad and how we balance it and how Unai Emery balances it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. But like you say, I mean, Everton, Wolves at home, Ipswich away isn't a bad introduction to starting life in the Champions League, to be honest with you.
I think the key thing you're missing, Rich, is, and I agree with everything you said there, but I would put ahead of all of that Emery.
Yeah.
Emery's
Yeah.
the
Yeah. It
master.
goes
He's
without
the
saying.
master of the
Yeah.
European
Yeah.
competitions
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
organising
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I don't think you'll have the same issues Newcastle had, because I don't know if Eddie Howe's had European football before he had it at Newcastle, so it was new to him. Whereas Emery, year in year out, was doing it at his old club. So I don't think he'll have that problem. I think a bigger problem is the fans and how vexed they are about the prices right now. Because that's
Yeah. Well,
going on.
to be fair, the Bayern Munich game, it sold out faster than any Villa game in history. So there was enough Villa fans that weren't. I think sometimes people live in this bubble that they think every single football supporter is on Twitter, and there's probably only 20% of supporters on Twitter. So I think it actually will be end up being fine. But yeah, it was a bit of a crazy couple of days with the odd ticket prices. But I agree with you, Wolfie. You know, the manager he's probably looking already at the games. I don't think anyone studies football as much as Unai Emery. He's probably already got it planned exactly how he's going to approach each game, how he's going to tactically go in, and what squad he's going to utilize, and everything like that throughout every game. So yeah, I've got every confidence that he knows what he's doing.
Adam, I'm going to ask this question to you. It's about Villa. Do you think their squad is strong enough to cope on 3, potentially 4 fronts?
No, I think it's an excellent squad. I really do. It is. But I only think there's 3 or 4 teams in the entire league that have squads that can deal with that, and it's the ones that have spent the most money for the longest time. When you look at the cities of the world, you could basically put out an entire second 11 that's still better than 85% of the rest of the league. That's what you're competing with. And with all due respect to Villa's team, it's not the same there, right? There's an excellent first 11, a very good subs bench. And then after that, though, if you're doing a full change, are you going to be able to back that up, especially when you factor in the injuries? It's so hard. And everyone on this call right now, outside of Wolfie, has had recent experience with trying to do European competition and then maintain the consistency in the other competitions, and it's so hard, even if you've got a squad that is of the quality of Villa's. So no, I mean, I think it's going to be tough, and I don't perfectly recall Emery's Villarreal successes and failures, but if I remember sort of rightly, they did fall off in La Liga a lot. There was a couple of years when they were nowhere in the table and were deep in European competition. And I think it's going to be a similar type of thing here. I'd love to be proven wrong, but it's so hard to do.
Adam, do you think it's massive to ask that a footballer getting paid 100, 200 grand a week puts on his boots 2 or 3 times a week?
Come on, that's such a weak argument.
It's not. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. It's not.
I mean, of course, but can they operate at? They're operating at a level that the rest of us just can't even possibly comprehend.
Hence why they're being paid that much.
Hence why they're being paid a lot. But can they be? They're human. Can they be 100% the whole time and put in all of that effort? They put all the mental energy in for a European competition because it's new. It's something they've not been able to do before, and then go expect to trot out against Everton at the or whomever it is, Ipswich, 3 days later, and you think that they're going to be at the same level. It's just not realistic. Of course, they get paid a lot, and they get paid a lot because they're excellent at football, but they're not. You don't just play the game based on the names and on the paper and just say, oh, well, they're better, so they're going to win. We know that's not how it works.
Right.
That's a fair point, but sorry, go on, Pete.
No. Hit back with what you were going to say really quickly.
I was going to say, but then that comes to game management. I'm not saying play 100%, 0 to 90. Yeah. Yes, you need a squad, but you don't need a squad of 25, 30 players to get through a European competition. We did it twice back to back, may I add. So, I know.
How old were you when that happened?
It doesn't matter.
Black and white.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's probably exactly the same game now, isn't it?
It happened is the key word. But my point is, the whole point that the reason Villa can attract some players now that Newcastle did when they're in the Champions League is because players want that kind of schedule. So if they then go and complain about being tired after, they can't have it both ways. You can't have your cake and eat it. If you want to be attracted to the teams that have got Champions League, You don't suddenly forget that there's, the Premier League games to come at the weekend. So they should be tuned up enough to be able to get 2 games out of themselves a week. That's just my opinion on it.
You must know something that pretty much all the top tier football players don't, because they all complain about the schedule congestion.
But they all want to play for those clubs,
well,
don't
of course, they want to play for those clubs. They want to play at the top tier competition. What they don't want to do is play 4,000 games in the space of 2 weeks. Like there's not a one or the other.
To be fair, Jurgen Klopp really used to piss me off about that when he used to whinge on and on and on about winning games.
Whinged about everything, didn't he?
Having more games to play because they used to win so many games. It's like, well, stop winning games then.
Exactly.
Like, you can't, I do understand
success.
both. Yeah, I do understand both sides of the argument. Like, yeah, I understand your point, Adam, about obviously they're operating at such a high level. If you're 2%, 3% under that level, then there's a chance you're going to lose that game, and because the other team is at 100%. But at the same point, yeah, I do agree. You want to play in these big competitions. You want to be playing every week. You want to be representing your country. So, yeah, you've got to suck it up, basically.
Harry Kane. Look at Harry Kane. As much as I think he's gone, he went and played. If I remember, like many years ago, he went and played in the under-21s or in the Olympic team, whenever it was, in the summer, and everyone's telling him to rest. He's like, no, I want to play. That's the kind of attitude I'd expect from players getting that much money, So it's not just one player that can do it. It can be conditioned into you to do it. And it's more about the desire. Do you care about the football, or is it the money that's driving you? That's my thoughts. And as John said, we all work 100%. I can't turn up to work tomorrow and be like, well, I had a late night yesterday. I'm only going to put in 80%.
That's exactly what people do it every day.
But that's the point.
I don't know what you're talking
expectation
about.
is not for that to be the case, is it?
That's true. We're just going to hold it just there, just because Deji's come and joining us, and he's on the move. Deji, how you doing, bro? You good?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much. Hi, panel. Good to see you all again.
Are you on location, Deji?
Yes, I'm in a different location. Just on my way home. So, sorry, my battery is a bit low, so I do apologise. But
No.
yeah, just doing some fitness work in the park.
You've come in just on time, Deji, just because our second topic that we were going to kind of cover, and then we'll come back. We've got some questions for Rich, but we'll want to find out a little bit about Brighton as well in their season. But I want to put this picture up, Deji, because a lot of Tottenham fans were celebrating when this picture came out earlier on today of Martin Odegaard on crutches, to add to the fact that Rice is not playing on Sunday.
Yeah,
you got to be excited about the potential of beating Arsenal on Sunday. You've got to be confident, surely.
Well, first and foremost, I'm not one to enjoy someone else's demise. You know what I mean? For Odegaard, aka right guard, bodyguard. You know what I mean? We wish him well, and we wish right guard a speedy recovery. For me and my club, I always want to play Arsenal with their best players, so that when we slap them up, there ain't a single little bit of an excuse. So part of me feels like I've lost a bit of myself for this weekend, to be honest, because I'm seeing Arsenal fans panicking already. And I thought they had a better squad than Spurs. But all of a sudden, a couple of players are out now, and they're wetting themselves. So for me, I'm disappointed. But what it does mean is there's more pressure from my club. I already knew, Basmati, Jasmine, Muller Rice or not, right guard or not, we were going to do domination in the location, because that's what we've been doing. That's what we do. I'm expecting us to do domination in the location and really just slap up Arsenal this weekend, to be honest with you. So am I excited? Yes, I'm not going to lie, I am. I'm also disappointed that Jasmine Rice is not going to be there, because I don't want any excuses. And Odegaard, aka right guard, bodyguard, is not going to be there as well. I don't care, because when my team was going through their injury crisis last year, similar to you guys, may I add, no one gave a damn. So do I give a damn? No. I just want the game to quickly get here now. Sunday can't get here quick enough, because the sooner we slap them up, the sooner we can move on, in my opinion.
I don't get it though. Like, Odegaard earns 250 grand a week. Why doesn't he just throw the crutches off and then play at 100%. I don't get it.
Too many games, Adam. Too many games.
Yeah, you should do. You should do.
Well,
Play on one leg.
Well, we talked about it before, but like, look, Deji's had his thoughts with regards to the game on Sunday. He wants to obviously beat Arsenal at their best, but ultimately he doesn't care. From your perspective, boys, is this Tottenham's time? Are they going to win on Sunday? Is the balance tipped in their favour with two of their key players missing? What your thoughts? And Adam, you're kind of like nodding away. You're confident. Daz has got a smile on his face.
When else are they going to do it? Like they've got
Never.
They've got us now, or they don't. Like you have to win. Yeah. That's it. You're at home. They've got two of their best players out. You got to win.
It's level it up for me. It's level it up. I would back Arsenal, even though Spurs are at home. But with those players missing, it's level up. It's going to be a cracking game now. One to watch for sure. All eyes on that one.
Is Solanke back, Deji?
We haven't had confirmation yet, but we suspect he will be back. We suspect Van de Ven will be back. I just take issue slightly with Daz's comment there about levelling up. It was level when both teams had their strongest 11. Arsenal now have been hammered with losing those two players. It's not levelling up. It's almost a bit of a joke, to be honest. Yeah, in my opinion. I mean, the fact that we can all say here with confidence that Tottenham should beat Arsenal on the weekend. And just again, for all the Arsenal fans that are locked in, locked on, you know, we talked about Arsenal having a great squad. They've lost two players. Mourinho we haven't seen, so we can't even confirm if he's good or not. So they've lost Jasmine Rice and they've lost Odegaard, and all hell is broken loose. Now, if that's what it takes for Arsenal to fall off the cliff, then quite frankly, they're a disgrace in my opinion. Newcastle had about 14 players out last year. We had about 14 players out, and we didn't start crying. And do you know what I'm saying? So for me, two players and now all of a sudden they're toothless. It just means that they're rubbish.
Problem is, Deji, you're looking at this the wrong way, mate. Like, you're talking about Arsenal fans making their excuses. So what happens when they beat you? What are your excuses?
Look, if we get beaten, then we're a disgrace. And I'll go as far as to say I like Ange Postecoglou. I understand what he's trying to do with my club, the football, the domination in the location. But if we lose on the weekend, I will be asking questions about Ange Postecoglou. I will be calling him up. And I will have to say he might have to leave my club, because for me, it's a disgrace. The North London derby, even if our team was whack, we always have to put in a performance. If we lose on the weekend, mate, someone has to lose their job. Either someone's coming off YouTube or someone's coming out of my club, but someone's got to go.
Just take note of the timestamp there. 48 minutes in. Just in case.
No, I think it's fair. Look, you've been fair with it. But look, we shall see. Any last words, Deji, before we let you go? Because I know your battery's low.
Yeah, no, thank you. Look, for me, I don't want anyone to take the shine away from my club this weekend. I was expecting to slap this Arsenal team up, even with a full squad. If you remember the game at the Emirates, Tottenham had more ball possession. There were only two teams that had more ball possession when they played Arsenal last season. That was Man City and my club. So when you see the domination in the location at full effect, I just want you all to sit back and marvel. And then to kind of readjust, you know, for the Villa fan, for the Brighton fan, for the Forest fans, all of you fans that didn't really rate my club, readjust your kind of pre-season predictions in terms of finishing. Remember, I told you here last week, and I'll say it again, I think Tottenham will finish third this season. Yeah? And I think you're going to start to see why once we slap up Arsenal this weekend. So I'm looking forward to it. It's not financial advice, but me personally, I'm going down to my local. I'm sticking a nice cheeky tenner on Spurs to win 3-1. And you should all do the same.
Well,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, Deji has spoken. Look, bro, appreciate you dropping on, man. I know your battery's low, but I'm sure we'll get you on soon. You take care, bro. We'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, Deji.
Bye-bye, guys.
Legend.
Bye.
We had it here
It's all
first.
about
What-
possession, isn't it? It's all about possession. Possession will
I
win
was
you
going to
titles.
say, mate, according to him, if they win possession, they win the league, man. It's
Clearly, they have more possession.
Leicester should have their league stripped off them. Didn't they win it with like 34% possession on average? So, yeah.
What I will say is that I know Deji mentioned about Marino. Miguel Marino is a quality player. It's a big loss for us
Yes.
to not even see him play. He will be quality for them. That is for sure. But you know what? I'm excited about that game. It's just added a little bit of spice to it, so that's going to be a quality one. Need to just put in the chat. We've only got 44 likes. We've got well over 100, 150 watching. Like, come on, let's get those likes up. It makes sense. You're in the house. Loads of you in the chat. Just click the like. It makes a difference. And appreciate your support as always. Look, Adam, we'll come to you. So I know we got to shoot soon, and we're going to be wrapping up the show soon because some of us have got an England game to watch. However,
Cool.
Brighton, talk to me about Brighton. You've had a fantastic start to the season. What are you expecting in this next section of the season? You expecting more of the same? We'll have a look at the fixtures at the moment, but you're going into this confident?
Yeah, I mean, we've got two really nice fixtures coming up, especially that second one. So we should be feeling pretty decent. Two home fixtures, Ipswich and obviously Forest. I'm a little concerned about Ipswich purely because there's something in my head that tells me the Kieran McKenna stuff that happened during the summer break about him potentially coming to Brighton, then turning Brighton down and staying at Ipswich. There'll be some like silliness that happens there where he sort of outthinks us. But no, I mean, the start of the season's been amazing. Fairly fortunate against Arsenal, let's be honest, with that refereeing decision, if you want to call it that. But outside of that, it's been an excellent start. And the funny part is we haven't really even seen any of the new signings apart from Minte for the most part. Like Ruth has come on for the end of games. The others have been injured. Weef has played one game against Everton, then was injured. From what I understand, is ready for this Ipswich game. We'll pretty much have everyone back, apart from the couple of really long-term injuries, and that's Solly March, and then our new signing Matt O'Reilly, who cruelly decided to assassinate.
Horrible tackle.
Yeah, disgraceful. Just didn't get a card, so brilliant refereeing. So yeah, that's good for us. And obviously we saw Evan Ferguson run out for Ireland the other day towards the end of the game. Really good to have him back as well, to have more depth up front, and hopefully he comes good this year.
Interesting. Yeah, looking at your fixtures, Ipswich, like you said, Ipswich, Forest, big game for Forest. You and Wolfie going at it.
No, really, mate. I mean, they struggle against us for the last 2 years. So,
God, he talks a lot about history, don't you? A lot of history conversation, not a lot of current.
When you look at a fixture, you don't think about what happened the game before or the fixture before.
We've got about 6, 7, 8 different players than last time, so no, it's a completely different.
So you won't look at. So when it comes to the Forest game, you won't be looking at how you played against Ipswich.
We have got no, that's a different conversation. That's a different thing. We've got a different manager and different players than what happened last time we played you, right? Completely different setup, completely different players. So the last game sort of doesn't make any difference.
You don't think that these kind of games historically have any bearing then?
Not when you've changed half the squad and changed
players
the
that
manager,
fancy playing against a certain club. There's certain teams that, I mean, we haven't beaten Bournemouth since 2015. They're our bogey club. Does that matter when we play them?
Well, I don't. It depends if you signed about 45 players like you did a couple of years back. Then I can't imagine they've got too much history about the fixture.
What's that got to do with it?
Well, it's the players, isn't it? They're the ones that think about it.
You always look at the heads up. There's literally websites about heads up going back to like 1900 against clubs. And you know you struggled against us. You couldn't beat us when we came up and went to yours, and Cooper did a low block at your place.
No, we struggled. Who was the Brighton manager then and the players?
You tell me, mate. I mean, who watches Brighton?
No, what I will say is that you've got, let's say, favourable fixtures, home to Ipswich and Forest, from your perspective, Adam. But
Yeah.
then you look at the fixtures after that: Chelsea away, Tottenham. As Deji just said, if they're on a bit of a run, if they beat Arsenal at the weekend, it could be difficult. Obviously, then you got the toughest fixture of the season on the 19th, when you head to St James's Park. And then you finish off with Wolves in October. So it does get a little bit tougher for you guys. Obviously, there, just check there. It gets a lot tougher into November. Doesn't get much tougher than that. Liverpool away, Man City at home. So the fixtures are coming into. You would say these were must wins then, if you look at the fixtures that are coming after that.
It's too early for those, isn't it? But I mean, you expect to win here. Obviously, we're going to drop down the table at some point soon, right? We're going to get beaten by a few of these teams here, and some of them be expected, and some of them be unexpected. The only thing that I'm thankful about is the end of last season. We had an absolutely disgraceful fixture list for the last few games. Like, we played every top club, and we fell apart. We had all these injuries. We played Europe, and we were just pathetic. So I'm glad that we're getting some of these tough fixtures done now, and the end of the season is obviously kinder to us when we do the repeat games. So I don't know. I like playing Chelsea because that's obviously now got a different flavour to it. A little bit nervous about Spurs because I heard they're going to finish third apparently, but from when we've played them in the past, they haven't been actually that impressive. Obviously, the Newcastle fixture is going to be a tricky one, but yeah, we got to get points. We got to get points against Ipswich and Forest. If we get less than 4 points in those two games, it's going to be a worry, at least short term.
Rich, do you see Brighton continuing their good form this season? You've been impressed by them. We've not had the opportunity, because I know you've been away, but not had the opportunity to ask you about Brighton. You've been impressed with what you've seen?
Yeah, I mean they're a good side. I think before I went away, we spoke about kind of how they've got a real good structure. That they know what system they play. They know what philosophy they've got. So it's almost like you can bring a coach in and he can put his own stamp on it a little bit, but the general ethos of the club won't change. I do see them maybe slightly changing that up a little bit now. They've spent a lot of money this season. Is it a couple of 100 million, Adam, if I'm right?
Like transfer spend?
Yeah.
We spent a lot of money. Spent a lot of money. Yeah, over 200 million.
So that's a really, really positive sign in a lot of ways, because they've done some great business over the last few years. But in that, now it's like, right, you've had the tools, you've had the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. So now there's a little bit of, I wouldn't say pressure, but there's a little bit of expectation on them to say, like, we've backed you, now go out and prove it. So, but I still see them having a good season, and yeah, they're going to pick up results against some big teams. It's, as always, with the likes of Brighton, Villa, West Ham, Newcastle. Can you win 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row? Or go 5, 6, 7, 8 games unbeaten and keep yourself at that level. That's the key litmus test. You can always pick up a big result against one of the big boys, but then you've got to back it up by beating, a lower level team after that.
Yeah, agreed. And the money spent obviously, when we came into this season, expectations were low. The end of last season was poor, as we mentioned. We didn't expect. I don't think anyone expected the sheer amount of money to be spent this year. We thought we'd have a big summer, but not this big. So the expectations shifted a lot. I think you bring in a 31-year-old manager that has only plied his trade in the Bundesliga 2, and you expect big things immediately. Like, that's a big ask. But then when you attach 200+ million to the equation, like Tony Bloom and the rest of the Brighton hierarchy are obsessed with getting back to European football. And if that's not this season, they'll be really focused on it for next year. So I think this year may be a year too soon, but it started off well. We'll obviously fall away a little bit, but my expectations are a lot higher than they were, let's say, a few weeks into the summer window.
Yeah, definitely.
Adam, a question for you, because I know you're going to shoot off in a sec, and we'll go get questions for each of the lads, actually. Question comes from Foxy. Who's Adam's preferred four to start up top? Gives us some options there as well. Who you have?
Awesome. It's a really good question, actually. I'm a big Welbeck guy. His experience and what he does for the team, I'd start him up top. Ferguson, obviously, he's been out of form, coming back from injury. That would potentially change based on if he comes back to be the player we hope he's going to be. But I'd stick Ferguson up top. I'm playing João Pedro behind him, who I think is, I know you guys probably kicking yourselves for not getting him when that transfer seemed sewed up a couple of years back. He's just an absolutely phenomenal player in that 10 role. Matoma on the left is a no-brainer. You absolutely play him. In my opinion, is one of the best wingers in the league, a natural winger. And on the right, what we've seen from Minter has been absolutely incredible. We haven't seen Gruda play yet. Ruta's not played much, but he's probably going to give João Pedro a break in that 10 role, drop a little bit deeper, and Cesso's amazing off the bench. But I'd start Welbeck up top, Matoma and Minter on the wings, and João Pedro behind. So pretty much how we've been lining up until this point, but just with the ability to bring these other players off the bench more than we have done the first few games.
Cheers, Adam. Fair enough question.
I like the question, though.
Very good question. Right, let's go to a question for Wolfie. Wolfie, the question for you, it comes from GDS. And
if I had that answer, I don't know. Look, Nketiah, I was so happy he rejected. I think he's utter cack. I didn't want him anywhere near Forest. Absolute joke of a striker. Jimenez, I would have preferred over Nketiah, but I don't know if he'd suit the Premier League. Marmoush, I would have definitely taken. We're going to regret not getting him over the line. But yeah, Forest basically, after they hit their top 3 to 5 and got rejected basically on all these strikers, they didn't want to do any panic signings. I know that sounds weird for Forest. They're going to kick it down the road to probably January and look at the market then or in the summer. But we still got Cristiano Udinho, so that might be the answer to the question. Because he's still firing. Honestly, he's an enigma. He does nothing. He does nothing in the games apart from bang him in the net, and I guess that's what you want with your striker. So he's still scoring them. It's just, can he stay fit? And we got Taiwo Awoniyi as backup at the moment, but he can't stay fit. So I am worried about the striker position. That's the key worry. I think a lot of Forest fans have.
We're just going to say goodbye to Adam because I know he's just got to drop off. Absolute pleasure as always for.
Good to meet you, Adam.
Wolfie, great to meet you. Rich, pleasure as always. Loaded team, massive respect. Thank you very much for inviting me on, and thanks for all the amazing listeners and questions you guys get. It's always a pleasure. Cheers all.
Take care.
Cheers, Adam. Great to have you. We've got some final questions. Yeah, there's some questions for Rich here. There's a few Villa questions. And this one from Genie Esther, one of them again. Monchichi was hugely successful for Sevilla, but also hugely criticized by Roma. Are you happy with his work so far with Villa? Good question.
Great, really good question, and I would say yes. I am happy with his work at Villa so far, and I think you guys have probably experiencing this as much as Aston Villa at the moment, with the fact that a lot of these director of football or head of football operations, whatever we want to call them, are very, very much hamstrung by the current profit and sustainability rules and what have you. Now, whether that is a club, whether that's partly the club are to blame because they know of these rules, or whether it's the actual rules themselves that need amending, the situation is as the situation is. So I'm happy with the work he's done. You know, you look at the signings that they've made in terms of what Unai Emery has asked for, i.e. wanting a greater physical profile for the team. If you look at the signings that they've made, Morgan Rogers, 6'3", 6'4", Amadou Onana, 6'5", Ross Barkley, 6'2". So they've massively increased the physical presence of the team that we have, because we were getting, in my opinion, too easily overtaken in midfield in a number of games, which is why I didn't want to lose Douglas Luiz and Moussa Diaby, but if I had to lose those, if we had to lose players, it would have been those two, because I just feel like they were a little bit weak for the Premier League at times. But in an ideal world, we would have kept those players and these players would have added to that squad. So I don't think he's necessarily in the situation he's had to deal with. I think he's done a really good job, but I would like to have seen him be able to kind of do a little bit more with regards to, you know, really getting his little black book out and signing some absolute stars or future stars. At the moment, he's kind of trying to do something with one hand tied behind his back a little bit.
That's so much. Next one from Foxy. He says, John Duran, does he deserve to start ahead of Watkins? And I know Tom wants to know if you'll sell him Watkins in January, but let's who would you start?
Look, man, we had this debate last week on our fans forum, and I know myself, obviously not been involved in football at the top, the professional level, but certainly at the semi-professional level as a manager and a coach. And people know themselves. Everyone wants to be in that starting 11. You think that you're a better if you're on the bench, particularly a striker, you think you're a better player than the player who's in front of you. So John Duran has already had the situation last season where he thought he was better than Ollie Watkins, and he wanted to be playing. That's why he was flirting with so many other clubs this season, and that's why so many other clubs wanted to sign him. Chelsea wanted to sign him for 30-odd million. West Ham wanted to sign him for 30-odd million as a 20-year-old. He's got all the attributes to be a phenomenal footballer. So, and not only that, this season he's in the 3 games, he's already scored 2 goals. He's come off the bench and scored the winning goals in 2 of the games. So, and Ollie Watkins hasn't started the season off as well as he would have liked. So he can't really be doing anything more. I think what's in his favour a little bit is we've got a number of games, so he probably will get a start. Whether you could say that's ahead of Ollie Watkins or not, or whether that's squad management, he'll get his chance, I'm sure, anyway. And then it's up to him to make himself the number 1 striker. On Ollie Watkins' perspective, he's obviously bought himself time with the season that he had last year, with his goal and everything in the Euros, and I'm sure he'll come good. But it's just really good to have 2 forwards, that can really affect games.
Yeah, cool.
I've got to add just really quickly on Duran. I was quite harsh on him, I think, at the beginning of the season when there was all that discussion around West Ham. I didn't really see the quality in him, but having watched the bits that I've watched this season, he does look a proper talent and still so very young. So
yeah, I mean, look at last season. He scored 2 goals against Liverpool. He scored 1 goal against Manchester City. He scored goals in Europe, and I think there's some sort of Premier League stat. I don't know how far it's going back to, but his goals to minutes ratio is only second to Erling Haaland. So he is an effective player, regardless of kind of the off-field antics and all that, which is, I'm sure he's got to work on because he's only 20 years of age. But when he gets on the pitch, he causes problems and he causes damage and he scores goals. Like when he hits the ball, it stays hit, and he's a nightmare to play against. So hopefully this season he might have matured a little bit. I think John McGinn's commented that he's come into training a slightly different player. I think Onana's had a big impact on him, like put his arm around him. And I don't think you mess about with a 6'5" central midfielder, even though Duran's a big lad himself, but I don't think you mess about with him. So yeah, fingers crossed he can start to repay that potential.
Yeah, definitely.
There's 2 questions about Newcastle, from one from Dave about Tonali, about starting over Longstaff potentially, and one from Mr. Chris Hall making work for us as well. We're not going to answer those just yet because we'll be back later in the week as we get closer to the game to talk about squad. But just wanted to mention that we are back tomorrow, just before we wrap up, with returning with Talking Toon, and it's back on your screens and a packed guest list tomorrow. We've got Geordie Dredd, we've got Johnny from Newcastle Fans TV, we've got Geordie Josh, we've got Fumby, and we've got Matty from the Magpie channel as well. So tune in tomorrow. We ask him one particular question: can Howe and Mitchell coexist? But plenty more as content as well. So keep an eye on that one. 6:30 tomorrow. Waydays will be back as well. We just have to set that up as well with the Waydays. So that's where we'll take your Newcastle questions on team selection. Thanks to Wolfie and Rich and Adam and Deji for joining us as well. Great show, and see you on the next one, I guess. Yeah. Off to you, Pete.
Yeah,
boys.
Big thanks to you boys for coming and joining us. I'm sure we'll get you back on the show at some point as the results kick in over the weekend. Massive thanks to people in the chat. On the way out, click the like if you haven't already and consider subscribing, not just to us, but the Villa Park Pod as well, with Rich and the team. Of course, Forest Fans TV with Wolfie and his team. And of course, you got Together BHA with Adam as well, and of course Deji Dench. Make sure you're subscribing to his channel. Make sure you do all that subscribing as well, and of course, come on England tonight. Let's get the win. Gordon goal. Konza maybe. Good Gibbs White.
Gordon deserves a goal, man. He played really well the last game.
Yeah.
No injuries.
No injuries. Exactly.
All play well.
Right.
Come on. Let's go.
How'd you like that? Good night, everyone.
How you like?